If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. Sharing it with your friends and family helps spread knowledge. And when we help others grow, we grow too. Thank you so much for listening. Let's dive into the podcast. Elisa Lam's erratic elevator behavior exposed. The elevator doors closed on January 31st, 2013. What they captured next would haunt millions of viewers around the world. 4 minutes of surveillance footage from the Cecil Hotel would become the most analyzed video in modern mystery history. The grainy black and white recording showed Elisa Lam alone in an elevator that refused to move. She pressed buttons frantically. First one floor, then another, then all of them at once. Her fingers danced across the panel with desperate urgency. The elevator stayed still. Then she stepped outside. Her head turned left and right, searching the empty hallway. Something had spooked her. She moved back into the elevator, pressing herself against the wall as if hiding from an invisible threat. Her hands began moving in strange patterns, wild gestures that made no sense. She seemed to be talking to someone who wasn't there. Her mouth moved silently as her arms waved through the air, like she was explaining something important to a phantom listener. The most chilling moment came when she peered around the elevator doorframe. Her movements were cautious, almost predatory. She looked like prey checking for a hunter. But the hallway remained empty. Police found this footage during their initial search. They released it to the public, hoping someone might recognize her behavior or provide clues about her whereabouts. They had no idea what they had just unleashed. The video exploded across the internet within hours. Millions watched those 4 minutes over and over. Frame-by-frame analysis began immediately. Every gesture was studied. Every facial expression was debated. Internet detectives emerged from everywhere. They enhanced the audio, searching for hidden voices. They slowed down her hand movements, looking for sign language or secret messages. Some claimed they can see shadows moving in the hallway just outside the camera's view. The theories multiplied rapidly. Was she running from someone? Had drugs affected her mind? Was she playing a game? Some viewers insisted supernatural forces were at work. Others pointed to mental health issues or prescription medication side effects. Television networks picked up the story. News anchors replayed the footage during primetime broadcasts. The Cecil Hotel's dark history added fuel to the speculation fire. This wasn't just any hotel. This was a place where dozens had died mysteriously over the decades. The video created more questions than answers. Why wouldn't the elevator close? What was she looking at in that empty hallway? Who was she talking to with those elaborate hand gestures? Each viewing revealed new details that deepened the mystery. Her strange behavior would soon become the foundation for one of the internet's most discussed disappearances. The footage had opened a door that could never be closed again. The discovery of Elisa Lam's body in the roof water tank. Something was terribly wrong with the water at the Cecil Hotel. Guests on the 15th floor started calling the front desk on February 19, 2013. Their complaints painted a disturbing picture that no one could have imagined. The water pressure had dropped to almost nothing. When guests managed to coax a trickle from their taps, the liquid came out dark and foul-smelling. Some described it as having a metallic taste that lingered in their mouths long after brushing their teeth. Others said it looked almost black when it finally emerged from the shower heads. Hotel maintenance worker Santiago Lopez received the work order that morning. He had worked at the Cecil for over a decade and thought he had seen everything. The aging building's plumbing system constantly needed attention, but this seemed different. The complaints were coming from multiple floors, all connected to the same water line. Lopez climbed the narrow staircase to the roof with his toolbox in hand. The heavy metal door marked "Authorized Personnel Only" creaked open on rusty hinges. 4 large water tanks sat exposed to the Los Angeles sun, each one feeding different sections of the hotel below. He approached the first tank and peered inside through the access hatch. The water level looked normal. The second tank appeared fine as well. But when Lopez reached the third tank and lifted the heavy lid, he stumbled backward in horror. A human body floated face down in the dark water. The figure was naked and had been there long enough that decomposition had already begun. Lopez immediately called hotel management, who contacted the Los Angeles Police Department within minutes. Within hours, the Cecil Hotel transformed into a crime scene. Police cars lined the street outside, while investigators in white suits climbed to the roof. The Los Angeles Fire Department brought specialized equipment to drain the contaminated tank and recover the body. The victim was quickly identified as Elisa Lam through fingerprint analysis. But her discovery raised more questions than it answered. How had she accessed the locked roof? The door required a keycard that only staff members possessed, and it was connected to an alarm system that would alert security if opened. The water tank itself presented another puzzle. Each cylindrical container stood 10 feet tall with smooth walls that would be nearly impossible to climb. The opening at the top was just large enough for a person to squeeze through, but reaching it would require significant effort and determination. Hotel guests who had unknowingly consumed the contaminated water learned the truth through news reports that evening. Many became physically ill upon hearing what they had been drinking, showering in, and brushing their teeth with for days. The Cecil Hotel's dark reputation suddenly seemed more ominous than ever before. Toxicology, mental health, and conflicting autopsy evidence. The coroner's report arrived 21 days after they pulled Elisa's body from the water tank. Medical experts expected answers. Instead, they found more questions. Dr. Lakshmanan Satyavagaswaran, the chief medical examiner, laid out the facts in clinical terms. No signs of violence. No evidence of sexual assault. The cause of death: accidental drowning. But the details hiding beneath these simple words painted a far stranger picture. Elisa's medication levels told a troubling story. Her prescribed drugs for bipolar disorder were barely detectable in her system. The levels fell so low that doctors called them subtherapeutic. This meant her medications weren't working properly. Her brain chemistry was likely unstable. But something else caught the medical team's attention. Strange blood pooling appeared beneath her skin in places that didn't make sense. Forensic experts scratched their heads. This type of bleeding pattern didn't match typical drowning cases. It suggested something unusual happened before she entered the water. The toxicology results raised even more eyebrows. Apart from her prescribed medications, her system was clean. No drugs, no alcohol, no substances that could explain her bizarre behavior in the elevator. This puzzled investigators who expected to find some chemical cause for her strange actions. Mental health specialists studied the findings with growing concern. They knew that stopping bipolar medications suddenly could trigger severe episodes. Hallucinations, paranoia, and complete breaks from reality were all possible. But could a psychotic episode alone explain everything that happened? Dr. James Ribe, a forensic pathologist, reviewed the case independently. He questioned the drowning conclusion. The water tank was tall and narrow. Climbing out would be nearly impossible for anyone, even someone thinking clearly. How did someone in a mental health crisis manage to get inside but then couldn't escape? Other experts pointed to inconsistencies in the autopsy photos. The body's condition didn't match someone who drowned immediately. Some suggested she might have survived in the tank for days. Others disagreed completely. The official report sparked heated debates in forensic circles. Internet investigators dissected every detail, finding patterns the professionals missed. They questioned why certain tests weren't performed. They demanded explanations for the unusual blood evidence. Months passed, but the medical community remained divided. Some doctors stood by the accidental drowning ruling. Others believed the evidence pointed to something more complex. The bipolar disorder explanation felt incomplete to many who studied the case closely. The forensic science that was supposed to provide closure instead created new mysteries. Each expert interpretation seemed to contradict another. The medical evidence that should have ended speculation only fueled more theories about what really happened to Elisa Lam in her final moments. The locked roof and restricted access, unanswered questions about how she got there. The roof should have been impossible to reach. Hotel Cecil kept it locked tight, with heavy doors and alarm systems. Only staff members had keys. Only they knew the codes. Yet somehow, Elisa Lam made it up there in the dark hours of January 31st. The police began asking hard questions. How did she get past the locked doors? Why didn't the alarm sound? The hotel managers looked uncomfortable when pressed for answers. Their security system had clear gaps that night. Detective Wallace examined every possible route. The main roof access stayed locked all week. No signs of tampering, no broken glass or damaged locks. The keycard showed no unusual activity, but there was another way. The fire escape wound up the outside of the building like a metal snake. Old and rusty, it connected to a window near the roof level. Someone could climb it in the darkness. Someone desperate enough to risk the dangerous climb. But this theory had problems too. No footprints marked the metal steps. No witnesses saw anyone climbing. The window at the top showed no scratches or fingerprints. If Elisa used this route, she left no trace behind. The water tank itself presented an even bigger puzzle. 4 large tanks sat on the roof, like metal giants. Each one stood 8 feet tall. The lid on Elisa's tank weighed over 30 pounds. It took 2 officers working together to lift it off. Inside the tank, the walls rose smooth and steep. Getting out would be nearly impossible without help. The opening sat at the very top. No ladder existed inside. No handholds marked the walls. This raised darker questions. Did someone help her reach the roof? Did someone force her into that tank? The police found no evidence of struggle. No defensive wounds marked her body. No DNA from other people appeared on her clothes. Detective Rodriguez walked the roof dozens of times. He measured distances. He tested the tank lids. He studied every camera angle. Something didn't add up. The pieces of this puzzle refused to fit together. The hotel's own employees couldn't explain the security failures. Some admitted the alarm system had issues. Others mentioned doors that sometimes didn't lock properly. But none could say exactly what happened that night. Weeks passed without answers. The roof remained a mystery. The path Elisa took stayed hidden. The simple question of how she got there became the most complex part of the entire case. Online sleuths and conspiracy theories amplify the mystery. The video hit the internet like wildfire. Within hours, thousands of people watched Elisa move in ways that made no sense. Her strange hand gestures, the way she talked to someone who wasn't there, the elevator doors that wouldn't close. Online forums exploded with theories. Reddit users created endless threads. YouTube videos analyzed every second of the footage. People slowed down the video. They enhanced the audio. They looked for hidden clues in every frame. The Cecil Hotel's dark past made everything worse. This place had seen so much death, murders, suicides, missing people. Now another young woman was dead in the most bizarre way possible. The timing felt too perfect to ignore. One theory spread faster than all the others: the elevator game. This urban legend claimed you could visit another dimension using an elevator. You had to press buttons in a specific order, visit certain floors, follow exact rules. If you made a mistake, something terrible would happen. People compared Elisa's button pressing to the game's instructions. She pushed multiple buttons. She waited. She stepped out and looked around. It matched the ritual perfectly, they said. Others pointed fingers at hotel staff. They had access to everything. They knew the building's secrets. Maybe someone followed her. Maybe someone hurt her. The footage could be hiding the real story. Paranormal believers saw ghosts everywhere. The Cecil was haunted, they claimed. Spirits lived in every room. These forces drove people crazy. They made them do impossible things. Elisa wasn't sick. She was possessed. Social media turned everyone into a detective. Strangers shared theories with millions of followers. Facts mixed with wild guesses. Real evidence got buried under mountains of speculation. The police felt the pressure. Every day brought new theories, new demands for answers. People wanted them to investigate hotel workers, check for supernatural activity, look deeper into the elevator game connection. But investigators deal in facts, not internet rumors. They had security footage, medical records, physical evidence. The online theories, no matter how popular, couldn't change what the evidence showed. The case became bigger than Elisa herself. It became a mystery that fed on its own fame. Each new theory brought more attention, more questions, more people who refused to accept simple explanations. The Cecil Hotel's reputation grew darker with each passing day. People drove by just to see the place. Ghost tours added it to their routes. The building became famous for all the wrong reasons. Years later, the theories still spread. New generations discover the footage. They create fresh explanations. The mystery refuses to die because people want it to stay alive. Inexplicable evidence, continued Tumblr posts, and missing phone. The elevator doors closed on Elisa Lam for the last time on January 31st, 2013. But her digital footprint refused to die with her. 3 weeks passed. Her body was found in the water tank. The case seemed closed. Then something impossible happened. New posts appeared on Elisa's Tumblr blog. Fresh content, new images, words that seemed to come from beyond the grave. The timestamps were clear. These posts went live after her death, after the coroner had already begun his work, after her family had started planning her funeral. Investigators stared at their computer screens in disbelief. How could a dead woman be updating her social media? The posts looked authentic. They matched her writing style. They carried the same melancholy tone that had marked her final weeks. Two theories emerged from the digital chaos. Perhaps Elisa had scheduled these posts weeks earlier, using Tumblr's built-in timer function. Young people often did this. They would write content in advance and let it publish automatically. But the second theory chilled investigators to the bone. Someone else had access to her accounts. Someone who knew her passwords. Someone who might have been watching her final days unfold. The missing phone added another layer to this digital puzzle. Elisa's cell phone never turned up. Not in her hotel room. Not in the water tank where her body was discovered. Not anywhere in the Cecil Hotel. This absence felt significant. In 2013, smartphones were digital treasure chests. They held text messages, call logs, photos, and app data. They could reveal where someone had been and who they had contacted in their final hours. Without the phone, investigators lost crucial evidence. They could not see her last messages. They could not track her movements through GPS data. They could not determine if someone had been communicating with her that night. The phone's disappearance raised uncomfortable questions. Had someone taken it? Had Elisa hidden it somewhere it would never be found? Or had it simply fallen into the city's vast network of drains and sewers? Digital forensics experts tried to reconstruct her online activity. They contacted social media companies. They requested server logs and account histories. But the deeper they dug, the more questions arose. The internet had become a new frontier for criminal investigation. But it was also a place where evidence could vanish with the click of a button, where scheduled posts could blur the line between life and death, where the absence of a single device could leave investigators grasping at shadows. Elisa Lam had lived much of her life online. Now her digital ghost seemed determined to keep her story alive. Unresolved final questions and legacy of the Cecil Hotel mystery. The case file closed with a simple stamp: accidental drowning, bipolar disorder, no foul play suspected. The Los Angeles County Coroner's Office delivered their final word in June 2013, nearly 5 months after Elisa Lam's body was found floating in that rooftop water tank. But the world wasn't ready to let go. The Cecil Hotel tried to move forward. They drained the tanks. They installed new security systems. They even changed their name to Stay on Main, hoping to escape the shadow of tragedy. Nothing worked. The elevator video had burned itself into the public mind like a brand. Online forums exploded with theories that refused to die. People dissected every frame of that haunting footage. They mapped the hotel's dark history. They connected dots that may have never belonged together. The internet had found its perfect mystery. Netflix noticed. Documentaries followed. Podcasts dissected every detail. The story spread far beyond true crime circles. Horror movies borrowed its themes. Urban explorers sought out similar locations. The case became a cultural touchstone for a generation raised on digital mysteries. Mental health advocates used Elisa's story to shine light on bipolar disorder. They explained how medication changes could trigger episodes, how young adults often struggled with treatment compliance, how stigma prevented honest conversations about psychological illness. Yet questions lingered like smoke in empty hallways. How did a 5'4" woman reach that heavy tank lid? Why did the hotel's alarm systems fail? What caused her strange behavior in those final elevator moments? The official answers felt incomplete to many who studied the case. The Cecil Hotel finally closed its doors to guests in 2017. Homeless services took over some floors. The building stands today as a monument to Los Angeles's complicated relationship with its forgotten corners. Tour groups still gather outside, phones recording, hoping to glimpse something unexplained. Internet detectives continue their work. They analyze water pressure reports. They study building blueprints. They interview former guests and employees. Each new piece of information gets scrutinized like ancient scripture. Perhaps that's Elisa Lam's true legacy. Her story reminds us that some mysteries resist easy solutions, that real life rarely provides the clean endings we crave, that even in our connected age, with cameras everywhere and information flowing freely, some questions may never find their answers. The elevator doors keep opening and closing in our collective memory. And somewhere in that endless loop, truth and legend dance together in the shadows.